this makes me like think like, oh man, like I should write a League of Legends book because I care like too much about this.
The history of LOL.
Yeah, but then like 2 people would read it. Like one of them would be me.
I would be one of them.
Nice. The 2 people are right here. They're in the room. I'll send you my draft.
Yeah. Hello and welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia, Season 10, Episode 28. And Emily, I've got a bone to pick. You poisoned one too many of our co-hosts. You were only supposed to take out one of them, but both of them are missing.
I couldn't follow instructions well enough. I appreciate that you went straight to the poisoning because, like, obviously I'm not physically capable of taking media.
Well, I wasn't thinking like that, you know? You're pretty jacked. I was just thinking subtle, sneaky, you know?
I'm trying, man. I'm back in the gym. It's been like a healing process from when I broke my hand, you know?
Well, today, Valorant is doing a takeover of the studio, so we can't record at our normal time, which means Meteos can't join because he's busy working right now. And then Kobe, unfortunately, is sick, so we're hoping you'll feel better soon, Kobe.
Feel better,
it means
Kobe.
It is just Emily and I holding it down here with Tibbers. And first things first, Hall of Legends trailer just came out. Caps has been announced as the next inductee into the Hall of Legends. How are you feeling about it?
I mean, I think my like most hilarious anecdote about Caps, because people like might not know this because 1 year of League of Legends is like seems like 5 years sometimes. Yeah. I used to be a journalist, and so when I first got to know him, I was a journalist. And I remember hearing this story about how at 2018 Worlds, he was so obsessed with practicing that they like had to be like, no, like stop. And then there was a rumor, again, I was just hearing this from people like on the EU side who told me, but he stole the key card so he could go back and practice at night. Which I thought was like really funny. And also it was when he was like an up and coming player. So I was like, oh wow, he's like super, super dedicated. Like this kid is like a super grinder. Mm-hmm. And before I'd actually heard of him at the IWCQ, I think. It was when he was playing in Turkey, but then he wasn't old enough to actually go to the international qualifier. Mm-hmm. But I remembered hearing about him in the TCL and everyone was like, oh my God, he's like, this kid is insane. And then the next story, you know, he's on Fnatic and stealing key cards so he can grind more Korean solo queue, presumably, because we're in Busan at the time. Mm-hmm.
I feel like the story that you probably remember this too, but one of the ones that I remember most as like my first introduction into Caps was this one. I think it was like 2016 or 2015. Whenever it was some international tournament, I think was in Europe, and Caps matches up against Faker in solo queue, and he's like, I don't even know what but he like is trash talking him a little bit, you know, maybe Faker misses something or whatever it was. I can't even remember the exact scenario. But he's like, oh, haha, or whatever. I think he's playing Zed against Riven. And then he kind of like types some little trash talk, and then Faker immediately kills him. Like immediately solo kills him right after. And all the chat is laughing at him and stuff. And like that was one of the first times I remember kind of getting that introduction to Caps. So was funny. Just this like solo queue trash talk clip that popped off because it's like, oh, you tried to trash talk the GOAT and he immediately showed you why he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
I think it's cool though. I mean, there's a lot of talk about, you know, does he deserve it? You know, should he have been the pick and whatnot? And at the end of the day, it is voted on by, you know, a panel of people, and this is who was voted for. I think Caps is deserving of being in the Hall of Legends, simply because, you know, it's not just about titles. It's not just about, you know, any specific metrics. You know, it is about like impact on the game. It is about, you know, kind of like the global impact that he has had on the game. Mm-hmm. And I think for anyone outside of the LCK and the LPL, if you're looking at a team, if you're looking at one player as a guy who really gave Europe a chance, gave like any non-LPL LCK team a chance, it is Caps, right? Like he has been to multiple World Finals. He has won MSI. This is one of the only people who has been able to actually go toe-to-toe from, you know, any non-LCK LPL league with the top mid laners from those leagues, right? You know, traditionally there has always been this bar. You have to be this tall basically to be able to ride, to have a chance against, the faker, the rookie, the Zeka, the, showmaker, whatever. And almost no one has a mid laner, good enough to actually compete against those guys. And Caps is someone that actually gave his teams a chance, whether it was Fnatic, whether it was G2. He's had insane levels of regional dominance. I don't even want to guess how many titles it is now. I think it's like 16, 17 in the LEC.
Since we expanded the, the title
well, they
list.
even did it before. They did
it before we did, yeah.
Exactly. So they have like crazy amount of trophies, but, he picks up 3 or 4 every year in the LEC. And he kind of always gives you that hope. And he's a really fun player to watch because he is really electric, really exciting. He's like this fun, goofy guy. And he is incredibly good at the game. And one of the things that to me kind of made it feel like a worthy inductee into the Hall of Legends was the fact that he is also one of the Western players, one of the only Western players that Eastern players actually look towards for inspiration, right? I've seen a number of interviews and heard from a number of Eastern coaches that they're like, oh yeah, we started playing this after we saw Caps do it, right? Mid laners be like, oh yeah, he was playing Anivia, or he was playing this, or they were doing Pike, or they were doing that, and so we tried it out, right? And so it's he has that level of respect from the very, very, very best mid laners in the world and the very best teams in the world, because he is always there and he is always, a threat internationally, right? And so I think it's really cool. I think it's pretty exciting that Europe is getting that representation, and that Caps is going to be immortalized in the Hall of Legends.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where, I put on my, I come from traditional sports hat, and I will say regarding, the discourse about his inclusion, it does make me wish that we had an actual Hall of Fame, because I was thinking about this, and again, I grew up in Boston, which is a very big traditional sports city. I grew up knowing about all of these names of players some of whom passed away before I was even born, or, I obviously didn't see them play, right? I mean, Ted Williams, Bobby Orr, Bill Russell, all these other people. And I was thinking to myself, obviously League of Legends lifetime from is about 15 years at this point, depending on when you want to start looking at the first tournaments, either 2011 or 2012, when things really began to crystallize. And I was thinking to myself, oh man, how many people know that in 2012, there were Western teams in OGN Champions, right? How many people know that people were looking at Double Lift and Wei Xiao to see how people played the ADC position? People were looking at Diamond Procs as the jungle position was evolving.
The counter-jungling innovation.
Yeah, how many people know that Cloud Templar wasn't always a broadcaster? He played for Zubu Frost. He was in a World Finals. And this stuff really matters to me as someone who, used to be a journalist. So it does make me wish we had an actual Hall of Fame like that, where it was just retired players and we could really kind of canonize League of Legends history, because it feels like everyone has such short memories, and people coming into League now sometimes only know, they probably do only know Cloud Templar and Captain Jack as broadcasters, right? They probably only know someone who I think should be brought up as the discourse has gone on around this, someone who should be brought up as a potential Hall of Legends inductee based on the rules that we've kind of established in terms of, longevity and how people are looking at their career and what they meant to their region. Maple, for example, right? People in NA only know him as a meme because of his time on TSM. And that's kind
Maple
of...
and Karsa were legends.
That's kind of infuriating, right? Because, he had such a long career and he meant so much to his region during a time where that region was continuously evolving and adding different teams. And, his time in the LPL didn't go as well, but he still, meant so much for the LMS, and that Flash Wolves team is so should be immortalized for what they did, right? And so I think in regards to Hall of Legends, I'm not upset at all that Caps was inducted. I think it makes total sense. but I also wish, like, in tandem, we also had a true Hall of Fame, because there aren't really a lot of, and this is, I guess, also to do with the lack of, like, third-party journalists kind of across the board in League of Legends, which, again, is just where I'm coming from, because I used to be a traditional sports writer as well. But that part kind of does make me sad, because I was just thinking of all these players in my head who I'm like, how many people, like, even know who Wei Xiao is beyond, oh yeah, that dude that just recently played in the League of Legends Classic match, and, like, also played in the Old Man Cup. And I think, like, his team, if I'm remembering, everyone's team fell apart. There was a lot of infighting in the Old Man Cup. But, that just makes me sad, because it feels like there are a lot of players who historically should be remembered for their achievements or their contributions to the game, especially early on, that people coming into LoL esports now might not even know about.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's totally true. Like, I think, yeah, like, I'm really happy for Caps. I think he's absolutely a deserving candidate. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, but, like, I had an idea specifically for Hall of Legends. I think it would be awesome if we had a League of Legends Hall of Fame that was, like, you know, more traditional Hall of Fame as well. But I'm yapping all the time, so I can't even remember if I said this on broadcast or not. But my pitch for Hall of Legends has been, you know how, like, for Faker, they have, like, you know, the Giga skin, and they had, like, the 2 other skins. And for Uzi, they had, you know, like, the super crazy skin, and they had, like, you know, the Lucian and the Vayne and whatever, right? They have the more basic skins. I think it would be really cool if we inducted 3 people, but there's, like, you know, the first pick,
Giga skin.
The first pick gets the Giga skin, but you still get in and you get 2 skins and you get to tell their story, and it would be cool to, like, recognize, you know, instead of 3 skins to 1 player, give, like, the, you know, the mega skin to the person who's, like, the first place recipient of votes, and then second and third get, like, a more, you know, the more tailored back skins, or whatever you want to call them, right? Like the more regular skins. But I do think it would still be really cool. Like, I think about what Riot did with for the Hall of Legends induction of Faker, which was so cool in the client. Like, I'm sure you saw it, right? Where it's, like, you can go through and you can see all the story and the historical moments. Like, you know, having that for you know, other players would be really cool, because to me the tough thing about Hall of Legends is there's so many players I think are deserving, and Caps is absolutely one of them. We can't get them all in there when we only do 1 a year.
1 a year, yeah. And it's crazy.
And the other thing that is always hard for me is that I feel like a lot of the old players that you're talking about, you know, the players who are more, you know, back at the start of Pro League, who are deserving from that era, if they are not inducted, like, now, they're never going to be inducted. So every year that passes, I'm like, I don't know if we're ever going to see, like, I don't know, like a Captain Jack, or like a whatever, or like a Amada or a Mako, or, you know what I mean? Because every year they lose some relevance as far as, like, how known they are and how likely they are to receive those votes, or like an Imp, or whoever you would make an argument for those years, right?
Yeah.
There's just so many great players, and it's like, you know, you even think about Modern League, and you think about, okay, well, it's like, what about all these T1 players who have won so many world championships? Can you even get all them in there? You know what I mean? Because it's like, if we start inducting T1, all these T1 members, like, next year, it's like, well, Carrier should probably be in there. Well, okay, what about, like, Guma? What about Owner? What about Zeus? What about, you know what I mean? Like, what about someone like Chovy, who has just ran the LCK for so many years? Like, his accomplishments are just as good, or you know, like, as someone like Caps, right? You know, and so there's, like, all these incredible players from so many teams that are deserving, and we just can't get them all in at this pace. So that would be kind of my pitch of at least, like, us, like, you know, even without having to build something entirely new, an adjustment that could potentially allow for more players to be recognized. Because at the end of the day, I think that's, like, what I want to see. Is I want to see all of these players who I think are deserving be recognized.
Yeah, I just want a, like, comprehensive. This makes me, like, think, like, oh man, like, I should write a League of Legends book, because I care, like, too much about this.
The history of LoL.
Yeah, but then, like, 2 people would read it. Like, one of them would be me.
I would be one of them.
Nice. The 2 people are right here. They're in the room. I'll send you my draft.
Yeah. More than 2. Get in the YouTube comments. We got our producers.
Yeah, our producers are raising their hands.
There's going to be people in the YouTube comments that are going to be pre-ordering Emily's definitive history of LoL.
Yeah. Oh god. I would have to get so many translators.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of work. A labor
but
of
yeah,
love.
Looping back around though, like again, congrats to Caps, like in all seriousness. I think it makes total sense as to why. And I think one of the most consistent things about the Hall of Legends inductees has been the undeniable influence they've had over other players in their region, right? Like, I mean, Faker worldwide, like everyone's like, oh, I saw Faker and like I want to be Faker. But then what he's meant to Korea, what Uzi, like so many young people in China grew up being like, oh, I want to be like Uzi, right? Like I want to do these cool things too. And then same with Caps, right? Yeah. He's inspired like kind of a whole generation of mid laners in Europe.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I feel like one of the things that all three of these players have in common is they all kind of have that aura, you know, like unironically, like Caps is goofy and stuff, and I love him, but I just feel like he's one of those players that even if I look at everything on paper and I'm like, yeah, they should lose. But I'm like, yeah, but they have Caps. You know, like if Caps is on, you always get that feeling that they could win. Yeah. Right. And I think that's something that is really special to the very best players in the world, is that no matter the circumstance, no matter what the matchup looks like, no matter how it's gone last time, you always kind of have that feeling that like, if they're on their day, like if they're playing their best game, like they can just take over in a way that is like pretty special and pretty unique. And Caps has always been one of those players to me that it's like I've had those conversations so many times through the years where it's like, I feel like we're all more doomer on like our own region's chances sometimes. So it's like you go international and the EU guys like, we're so screwed against it. I'm like, I don't know, man. You have Caps. Like he just has to play well. And sometimes he can pull that off. So congratulations to Caps. Very, very, very deserving. Been killing it for a decade plus, it feels like, or around there at this point. So definitely very worthy to be the next inductee into the Hall of Legends. I also want to talk about this Isles interview with Nayman or Nayman, whatever you want to call it, which I thought was really, really insightful. And Isles in general is just a super insightful guy and really well spoken. And I thought it was really interesting because it gave very interesting perspective on how he sees how LYON is doing. Because we all kind of from the outside looking in, or I'll speak for myself, me from the outside looking in, thought, all right, post MSI, there's going to be a slump. They don't have Inspired. They're probably going to do a little bit bad, and they're just going to kind of like chill and take a break and like, who cares, right? And then we even had... I think it was Saint in an interview where he was saying, oh, you know, I just kind of thought it's whatever, like doesn't really matter because Inspired's gone, but like everyone else wanted to win, so now I really want to win too. I'm locked in. And Isles was talking about like how, you know, he thinks that like all these mistakes and stuff that they're making like were unacceptable, and that he feels like they did a poor job to kind of like keep things up to their standard, which I thought was really, really interesting. Even talking about, you know, in scrims and on stage where it's like, it's very easy to kind of like paraphrase, but it's very easy to just be like, well, it's just like, you know, we're just going to lose because our Mayo is going to mess up, or this is going to happen. And like, who cares? It's not a big deal because like if he messes up, it doesn't matter. Inspire will come back and fix it. But he's like, well, no, but like we messed up this and we should have expected that. And we could have, you know, anticipated that, or we could have been better at calling this out or understanding what was going on. And I think that is the kind of attitude that it does take to like constantly improve and to really get to the super high levels that obviously they want to be at, right? They were one game, arguably like one team fight in game 4 away from winning a series against HLE. And yeah, you need that like really a high level of kind of self-criticism, but at the same time, I think it can cause tension and it can cause frustration and it can burn you out if you're constantly stressing about everything. So it is kind of that, you know, two-edged sword or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like the next level of like, the first level is like, how do you deal with being the best team in your region and you go internationally and you do really well and you get such better practice and you're being punished for your mistakes, and then you come back to your region and then you know, like it's easier, so you can get away with a lot more. And if you don't keep track of that, you're going to get worse because you will get complacent. And then this level is, oh yeah, also we're missing our like star jungler and the one who kind of like keeps us in line a little bit. And I know we joked a lot about it after week 1, where you have these crazy plays all over the map. Like everyone kind of remembers Berserker just diving, right? Or like the Jace game. It was interesting talking to Dhokla after that match and him being like, you know, the Baron play where we did turn around that game too. That was a inspired play, right? Like that was a very inspired play. But throughout the weeks, and again, I can only also comment on the outside and then from what I've heard from talking to players, is it did seem like their scrims were going really poorly. Like there was that Saint interview, but then there was also Dhokla was on that week with me on pros, and he was talking about how like, yeah, like our scrims are going really bad. I'm actually really surprised that we showed up on stage. And with that, it kind of got to this point where it seemed like, okay, regardless of what's going on in their practice, they are the type of team that's just that good that they will show up on stage. And that came to an end this week with their loss against Sentinels, right? So I think it was interesting to hear Isles specifically say this, because Isles has always been known, like even like before he came to NA, from Oceania, as a huge grinder, right? As someone who's like just really dedicated towards practice, towards improvement. That's definitely why he got picked up. And I'm so happy to see him, just like as a broader topic, I'm so happy to see him on a team that is so dedicated to improving, right? Because I think that really fits with the way what he wants to do, and he himself has evolved so much individually from even Split 1, right?
Yeah.
Like it's actually super impressive. So it seemed like he just kind of needed that environment and someone to push him, and it seems like Inspired was, as he will be on all of his teams, a huge reason and a huge part of that. And so I can definitely see why he's kind of like being like, okay, like we had our fun, but, I think it was really telling where he was like, you know, when you have someone who has the voice of reason, who will shut down all of the nonsense at some point, the game may have looked completely different. It's so easy to say that, but it's our responsibilities as individuals to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen. And we feel very far short. And that's very critical of himself. It's very critical of his teammates. I think this team is a team that's very critical of themselves and each other. Not in a bad way, but that's actually what's led them to improve. So, I
also think, I don't know if you agree with this, but partially I feel like from Isles' POV, he kind of has more to lose almost. Like this is the first time he's been on a good team, right? Like he spent his career for the most part on bad teams that like never really stood a chance to actually like win a title or do something crazy international. And so it's like, I feel like when you have had to struggle a bit more, then you get like an opportunity that's a really good opportunity. You realize that it's a really good opportunity and you really want to make the most of it, right? Because it's like he has been playing for a long time. And this is the best chance he has ever had to actually like, make a splash internationally by far. It's not even close, right? And so he knows that like this can fall apart and this could go bad. And I feel like that kind of, pushes that that feeling of like, hey, we can't mess this up. We all need to take responsibility. Just because Inspired's not here doesn't mean we can't, pick up the slack or, do something to kind of like make it better. I thought this answer was really interesting. There's a question about, when Armeo first came in, it felt like the four of you still had structure around him. At this point, though, your game feels a lot more like solo queue. That's the question. And Al says, yeah, I mean, I think with everyone taking a bit more responsibility, there's just people want to be heard in game. In game 1, that was the biggest issue. Trying to fight on mid when Sol was free and using, again, I don't want to blame Armeo for his mistakes, but using J4 ult on a guy who has flash up. Anyway, like, Syndra is screaming in comms to just try and make a fight happen. MF is saying, just play slow. And no one even calls for Shen'el. I wasn't even looking when J4 died. And he says, I think even game 1 was just a bit too much fun. We've had this happen in our games before. Even the game we played against Shopify, if you remember the second game when we played Olaf, when we were really ahead, and Dhokla randomly dies top, people roaming. This happened in this game too. Might not have been the catalyst to why we lost necessarily, but I think our team for sure has gotten a bit too lax in practice and when we're in winning positions. I don't think we've ever lost a game from ahead like this, maybe ever on stage, literally ever. I don't remember us ever having a significant lead and ever throwing, even internationally. I don't think it has ever happened. So honestly, even just saying this out loud, it's a bit unbelievable. And I thought that was really a really great answer and really interesting. And, it goes on. It's a great interview. You guys should definitely check it out. It's from NAMN. It's on LCSProfiles.com. I think Arsh also tweeted it out. So I think he was probably the one interviewing. But definitely fantastic interview. Check it out. And I just thought that was a really, really interesting answer. And it is something that is hard when it's like, okay, Inspired was the king, right? Everyone listens to Inspired, and there's like the established order. And then the king is dead. And now all the princes are coming in and trying to take out some of the responsibility, and it becomes more unclear, right? Like, what is the hierarchy? Yeah. And I think that is something that can be more difficult when it's like, if Inspired says we're not fighting, we're going to Seoul, probably everyone's like, yes, sir. But like when MF is saying play slow, go for dragon, and Syndra is saying force a fight, and I think it's the hierarchy is unclear, and it's as a result, there's more chaos.
Yeah, no, I agree. So we'll see what they look like when the king returns.
When the king returns and all the upstarts are put back in their place.
I mean, there was that really fun joking initially, right? Where he was like, your Jace days are
enjoy
numbered.
Jace while you can.
Or whatever,
Yeah, I love those tweets. They're great. Vulcan also is now tied all time for first assists all time in the LCS.
Okay, so I was on this cast, and there was a moment where I was thinking in my head, I wrote down the timestamp. It's at 1826 in game 2, where he gets the kill onto Quad Syndra, and I was like, oh no, that's not an assist. And then to find out that he tied but did not surpass Aphromu, I was like, obviously it's gonna happen when they're in Mexico City. But selfishly, I wish it had happened here, right? Because I would have really liked to see that celebration happen live, like in our studio. And but now he's tied. Like, it's kind of an insane achievement, quite honestly. Like, I know you guys had talked about this in previous weeks as he was approaching the record, but I'm just like, it could have happened while he was here.
I mean, it's really, really cool. And he doesn't have the record, but like, unless Cloud9 fires him and no one ever picks him up ever again, like today, he's going to get the record, right?
They're going to do that just to
He just needs one assist.
Like, you're benched. We're bringing in APA support.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's like, even in horrible losses, it's almost impossible to not get an assist, right?
Yeah.
He needs one. He is going to become the all-time leader for assists in the LCS. And it's very, very cool because Vulcan has been, so good for so many years. And I thought it was kind of interesting that, this was happening in a week where you were probably the one interviewing, but Zeyzal was talking about how, like, he's like, even when I gave it 100%, I tried for so many years to be the best player I could be. He's like, just couldn't be as good as Vulcan and Core.
Yeah.
And no matter what I did, I just couldn't be as good as those guys. And, there is that kind of element, I think, in all things, whether it's traditional sports, whether it's esports. People talk less about like genetics and stuff like this in esports. But I think it's because they are less obvious. Like when you see a guy walk onto the football field and he's like 6'8" and 300 pounds of muscle, and you're like, okay, like he might have a genetic advantage, like over me or whatever, right? In esports, I feel like there are similar advantages. I just think they're less obvious. And at a certain point, it's like, hard work beats talent, but talent with hard work wins every time is kind of like how I feel. And I think that it's like some of the things that, if you're listening, you're like, well, what is he talking about? Like genetics in esports, like anyone can play a video game. Yeah, you can, but like the speed at which you take in information and are able to like understand what is happening on the screen, I do think there is some genetic element to like how fast your reaction speed is, like how quickly you're able to process information, how quickly you're able to like learn. All of these things, I think, is one part nature, one part nurture. And so I think that like Vulcan is one of these guys that is just an undeniable talent. He has been at the very top of the league for a very long time, has worked incredibly hard, is like a really diligent player. And it's cool to see someone being that successful for that long and getting to the top of the table. It's he's up there with a lot of like we had the mountain of assists. I can't remember all the players that were on it.
Shout out to Blaber who also crept up. Well, so the other issue is like Aphromoo and Vulcan are so far ahead, right?
Yeah.
But then you have like Huhi and Core and Impact, who as long as they keep playing, they're kind of just gonna keep like, I think they've like swapped. In fact, I think we were gonna do it as a gag. I forget did we do this in game? I don't think we did.
No.
Because the series ended up being maybe more serious.
Yeah.
But I do remember half planning a gag where we were just going to be like, oh, and Huhi takes the assist record. Oh, and Core takes Core just
because they were like tied. Yeah.
Because they're just going to kind of keep like passing and falling behind in like kind of a clump, which is what really makes Vulcan's achievement stand out as such an impressive one, right? Because one thing, to return to like kind of a Hall of Fame, Hall of Legends thing that I really value just generally in pro players is longevity, right? It's the ability to kind of stick around and stay at the top. And I'm glad you brought up that Zeyzal interview because I feel like a lot of supports in NA have felt similarly, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm coming in and I know I'm really good, but then what happens when I still can't approach what Vulcan is doing? What even Core right now is having, like, I'm sure we'll talk about it when we talk about TL, but like he's having yet another career resurgence, right? So you're just kind of sitting there being like, what is it going to take for me to be able to beat these guys?
Sometimes the answer is you just can't be as good.
Yeah. And so that's where Vulcan's achievement really stands out to me, is just like how consistently good he has been for so long. And when he has had a down season or a down year, he's been able to recover from that the next year, right? Like he's pretty much always in the conversation for all pro. And that just says something about his dedication to the game, his ability, and as sad as I am, that didn't happen here. Congrats to him for tying the record. And I know he's going to get it in 2 weeks. So
we could celebrate when he comes back.
Yeah.
Celebrate his achievement.
I'll just follow him around like a little popper, be like, woo! Just be like, Emily, what the hell are you doing?
Waiting at the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is really cool. Definitely a very, very deserving player. And it is, it's also one of those kind of like surreal things. It's like Afro, has been around for so long. How long has Afro been out of the league now, though, right? Like it feels weird when some of these players who have been around, like you associate them with the old days and with the beginnings and stuff, and we're so dominant for so long. When some of the records start to get passed, it's like this kind of bittersweet feeling. It's like, oh, to me, like, so Core is amazing. When we did the like top 10 or whatever it was, like the roll for like by roll for LCS. I think it's a different story now because Core has been around a lot longer, but that was 2020 or when was that? Do you remember?
I think it was right before I came on.
Okay, well we did that
would have been 2020.
And Afro didn't win number one in support, and I was not happy about that. I felt like Afro should have won because it was like in LCS, right? And it's like, even if Core's a better player and had like accomplished more with the World Championship and all this, I was like, man, Afro deserved to be like immortalized as like the best LCS support all time. And that's kind of like was my stance at that time. And it kind of goes back to the same thing you're talking about with a real Hall of Fame, right? It's like Afro is someone that like as an LCS fan and LCS diehard for all these years, like I would want to see players like that immortalized too, right? It's like, should Aphromoo get into the Hall of Legends over Deft or someone? No, but should he be in the Hall of Fame? Yes, I think so. And so I think it is another argument for that.
How many people know that Afro used to be an AD carry? I used to watch him and our director Yut play together.
Probably not a lot of people. Should Yup be in the Hall of Fame?
Should Yup be in the Hall of Fame? He was my favorite streamer, actually. I used to watch because he had good music and he was very chill.
I have a little story from this is like, God, I think it was it 2016? Maybe probably 2016 finals in Toronto. And I think that's back when we had the third place match. We didn't actually have like the continuation of the bracket. So CLG, I'm pretty sure, was playing in the third place match, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Because
I interviewed Huhi there.
And my brother at the time was a huge CLG fan, and so I had like at one point I had gotten him like he started playing League and he like was like one tricking Nami and stuff, and so like I got him like a Nami plush and all the CLG guys signed it, which was super
cool.
Sweet. And then my brother got to come to the LCS finals because it was in Toronto, which is only a couple hours from where they live in Kingston, where I grew up. And so they came and, like after the cast or whatever, I met up with my brother and stuff, and we were walking back to the hotel, and we just happened to run into some of the CLG guys, and like my brother was, it's Afro, it's Darshan, oh my God. And I was like, oh, like I'll introduce you. And like, you didn't really want to bother them. And I just thought that they would just like do a quick hi or like, take a photo or whatever. And went over, introduced them, and they just like hung out and talked to him for like the whole walk back for like 30 minutes
cool.
or maybe even more, to be honest. And both like took pictures with him and like, we're offering to like sign a jersey for him and like all this stuff. And they were just like so nice. And it just made me such a fan of kind of like those players and, the realization of like how much of an impact some of these pros can have on people. And just, it's really, really nice to see. So that was just, like a positive memory I have of Afro in that time. So it's really cool seeing Vulcan pass him, but also I'm like, Afro needs to be remembered.
Yeah, he'll go in my League of Legends book.
Yeah, you can get him in there. You can interview my brother about how nice he was.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, we're going to head to a quick break, but we will be right back after these messages.
Dude, this lobby is kind of comfy. It feels different.
If this is different, I like different. I'm staying right here.
Are you guys serious? We're about to get into game.
Emily, let us enjoy it.
You guys need to lock in. Maybe this'll help.
Oh no, not already.
Welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia. It is time to talk LCS, and what better way to kick it off than to talk about the fact that LCS Championship tickets are on sale now. Another wave of tickets just went up for sale, including one-day tickets October 3rd and 4th at the Gas South Arena in Georgia. Check the link for the description. It should be a lot of fun. It is, of course, our summer finals, which means our teams will be qualifying for Worlds there. It's going to be, they're going to be going off to Worlds. We'll be determining the seeding and everything, so that should be a lot of fun. And the LCS pros are also going to be taking over the broadcast this Sunday, which is going to be...
I can't wait for this. It's going to be so funny.
This is going to be insane. There's no talent on the analyst desk. So it's my understanding is it's just pros.
So
they've got to make the segments, they've got to do the things, and I don't know what's going to happen.
It's going to be a really heavy lift, I think, on producers. And it's also there are two pros who actually have had to do like actual segments, and one of them being Zven, who I think we got some experts. We've both worked with, but I do also remember, and it was hilarious, but I do remember
the Cloud9 analyst desk.
Yes, Zven trying to corral the rest of his
trying
team.
to herd cats.
Yeah, because he's like the only one with an IFB, so he's trying to hit like the transition times. Yeah, and his team is like not allowing him to do that. He's trying to stop Berserker from swearing. That's also not happening. Yep. Like it was a fun time. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching.
We need like PAs on standby with an air horn to get them ready for the toss. It's like, you must toss the commercial now. But it's gonna be amazing. We got some really great guests. So we have Inspired, Dhokla, Zven, Zeyzal, and Blaber. I believe are all gonna be there. So that should be a ton of fun. They're also gonna be casting. spoilers, I'm going to do a duo cast with Blaber, which I think should be really fun.
I was actually so happy that Blaber finally got to cast because I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, no, he's excellent. I think Dhokla is also going to be casting. Inspired is making his return, not as a player, but as an analyst. Yeah, he's going to be here. So that's going to be so much fun for week 5. We have this cool opportunity because, of course, a lot of our top teams for week 6 are going to Mexico City and playing there, which means they have a bye in week 5. So these players don't have to play in week 5. So they're going to all get to join the broadcast, and that's going to be really, really, really fun. So definitely don't miss out this weekend. But let's talk week 4. TL won another series here. They beat DSG 2-0. And I don't know about you. I know you had your Huhi Hambach.
That's like, okay, yeah. Unfortunately,
I wasn't trying to put you on blast.
Yeah, no. So at the beginning of the year, for anyone who doesn't know, they asked for hot takes, and usually people have taken issue with the fact that my takes are never hot enough.
They're room temperature.
They are room temperature. They're lukewarm. My friend Kelsey used to always be like, "Wow, good, another lukewarm take from Emily." So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go really in," and I'm like, "Something
this is a good hot take.
Could happen.
Yeah,
isn't likely, but could." And that was like, Huhi and Hambach are going to become the best jungle support duo. And that is not looking good.
But it is Jose and
Core are tearing it up. Like, there was, when I was reviewing the series for this episode, there's like already as early in game 1 at around like 11:40, Jose like ganks mid just as Core is invading bot side. Sejed loses like I think 3 total waves to turret throughout this entire exchange. But so the gank happens mid, that's successful. Jose is immediately able to rotate into the bot side jungle, invade, wait for DSG to respond. Meanwhile, Yon is just like hammering at the turret. Like again, Sejed is completely off the wave. And then Jose just comes, or like Core delays his back with Solar Flare, I think. And then Jose just comes in like, I think auto attack or like pokes him like 4 times or something. Sejed dies. Another wave just ends up dying to turret. Like they seem to be like Core and Jose are so like synced right now. Like the entire team is in sync, but specifically those two, because the early game is so dependent on support jungle. It's super important. It's been super important all year. And
they're
like
just torturing enemy carries.
They see like the best way I can put it, I think, is that a lot of people like this happens to me a lot when I'm in game. I can always see the beginning of the play, right? Like it's really easy to see the beginning of the play. It's not as easy to see the end as you start the beginning, if that makes sense. And the best way I can put what TL are doing on the map is that they're so deliberate about their movements that they can see the end of the play before they even begin the play,
and
which is
like they can
super
see the play
impressive.
After it too.
Yeah, which is like it's just like what they're doing right now is really, really impressive to me. And the fact that they are so focused on continuing to improve as a unit and really trying to hold themselves accountable is also really, really good.
I think TL looks really scary. They are just, they're playing really, really well. Core and Jose, what they are doing to enemy bot lanes is just like crazy. Like,
it's awful.
watching Sejed and watching like Masu the week before, it's like they are living behind the tower, and I just love how they play together. You know, even when Core is just on an Enchanter or whatever, like they're still willing to play so aggressively. It's not just like if he's on Bard or Nautilus or whatever. It's like he's on Nami and they're still, proxying behind the tower and stuff. And it is just really, really impressive. And I think it is something they're kind of being allowed to do because all of their players are playing well, right? So all of their lanes are putting on pressure, and it makes it really, really hard for the other team to be able to kind of like keep up. And when everyone is being pressured, the enemy jungler has, really difficult job already. And then one gank happens or one 2v2 kill or solo kill or anything happens, and it just feels like the map just breaks.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there's this extra point of pressure where, okay, now Quid can help with an invade, or bot got pushed, so now they're invading. And like, there's always that extra man that is moving in, it feels like, with Jose and being able to support on these plays because their lanes are all really playing well. And they've been using this to destroy bot lanes. And Jan, I know we've talked about this a lot this split, but like, he had not been very good this year, and he was not very good at MSI. But TL were still, doing pretty well. And now seeing Jan play as well as he is, and the whole team is playing at a really, really high level, it's exciting because they are a real threat to win the title. It's not just Lion, and especially there's more uncertainty around Lion now because Inspired has been away for a lot of the split and so on. But yeah, I just feel like they are coordinating better than any jungle support in the league, and they are slamming home advantages better than any jungle support in the league because they're constantly delaying bases. They're constantly forcing, mismatched timers when it's like you chunk out a support, the support bases, now that 80 carry gets zoned off, and instead of letting a base, Core and Jose are behind the tower, interrupting the recall 3 times in a row while all these waves out of the turret, and Jan gets 2 plates, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, how do we play?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing is, especially when Quid also gets involved. Like, I know he was joking. I think he saw the Loki rise stats and thought that was LCS overall rise stats. But he was like, yeah, like I saw Rise has such a poor win rate, and I was like, how? This champion is broken. And I think you can also really see TL's foresight when Quid is on Rise, right?
Because his Rise is sick.
His Rise is insane. He will do these plays where, like, I remember last week, there was that run of play where he like goes up, kills Gak Ghost, Realm Warps mid, Core is already in position to link up with him. And it's that kind of map play overall where it's like he knows that, Core is going to be there to help with that setup, because I think he was just there like holding the wave. It's the fact that their support jungle always seemed to be at a point of pressure that forces, like you already pointed out, their opponents to make, like, at the very least, really risky decisions because they're making it from a disadvantageous position pretty much constantly.
Yeah, no, it's super, super impressive. TL looking really dominant. They have not dropped a game yet. They're 8-0. I was hoping that we were going to have kind of like the undefeated match between Lion and TL, just because that like is really, really cool. Now it's a different story. Now it's like, oh, they faltered, can Inspire get them back on the right track or whatever. But I do think it's really impressive that TL is looking this good, and it's easy, I think, for people to start feeling like over the last couple of years, it's like, oh, just like whatever team's Inspired on is going to be the one that wins, right? And so having like a true rival kind of like rise up, and having TL get to a point where they are playing the best league, I think that they have been really throughout the last couple splits is really exciting. And it's like all coming, with the return of Inspired in Mexico City, 4 week 6 is going to be a crazy banger. But yeah, TL definitely smurfing. Dig lost to Shopify. I actually predicted Dig to win this one. I just kind of thought it was going to be a bit of a mid gap, to be honest. And it ended up being a pretty back and forth series. Dig had a really good start, but Shopify obviously ended up taking it. How did you feel like this one went?
The ultimate grudge match bowl part 3. I think my favorite. So 2 things. One is kind of goofy, but if you remember that failed Skarner flash from there was just this absolutely heinous team fight in mid brush, topside river kind of
where they all chatted after,
where they all just Renata ult doesn't come through in the right spot. It's just fortunately B-Boy gets this miracle bailout, right? And that's actually a huge part of the fight. But afterwards, Gondrax just types in, Christian, we're both disgusting, no. And Palafox just responds with a ha ha ha, close kinda. Yeah, I always love seeing stuff like this because obviously for people that don't know, they are Contracts and Palafox are still friends, right? So that was funny to see.
They hate each other. There's gonna be an ultimate grudge match part 4 coming soon.
But then a few other interesting things that I think happened after this were in that same interview that you mentioned, Zeyzal kind of talking about Vulcan and Core. They also mentioned, and they weren't going to get into like specifics for obvious reasons, but they were like, yeah, you know, we had scouted Dardoch specifically and been like talking about what can he play, what can't he play. And it seemed like their predictions were pretty spot on, because while I think Dig has looked better with Dardoch for sure, they still have kind of some of the same issues where it comes to mid-late game, and they seem like really, really lost. And I think another difference maker in this is that we finally saw Zinni have like a pretty solid series.
Yeah, he did.
I don't think, like, it makes me sad, again, as someone who watched him a bit in LCK Challengers while he was on KT. That's the only Challengers team that I sometimes watch, because I like to torture myself even more, you know. KT just lost to Gen G last night, if anyone was wondering how I'm doing this morning. But like, it does make me sad that I still feel like we haven't seen those like really sharp facets of his game that we saw in Challengers. And I'm not talking about like how he sees the map or like overall macro play. I'm talking about just like individual micro mechanics, right? But this was the first series where I was looking at and I was like, okay, like Zinni looks like he's back on track. He's performing well. He's a part of what the team is doing more often than not, which was pretty consistently a problem for them across the like several splits now.
Which I think is why he had just been on like Galio aim.
Yeah, exactly.
Your role was so obvious then, right?
So it was good to see him actually come out and have like a pretty strong performance for the team, and I do think it was a difference maker. I also just really enjoyed the Contracts Zeyzal banter afterwards. I'm super happy that Zeyzal is one of our pros who's going to be on the pros takeover, because he's fantastic, really hilarious. And for as much as he said like, oh, you know, I'm not necessarily going to come back to pro play after this, like as much as he's joked around about it, it does seem that he really does care about what they're doing and the results, and was pretty critical of himself after some parts of that game, despite the fact that he did end up getting the fat Renata ult at the end, which was like, I do think their game 2 and 3 drafts were really, really good into what Dig wanted to do as well. So now Shopify are one of our top teams by record.
Yep. Well, they're going to Mexico City.
And they're also going to Mexico City with the other top team.
Yeah, so we'll find out. You know, maybe they'll actually prove it. But no, I thought it was cool. I like that you mentioned what Zeyzal was talking about, you know, where he was saying, like, basically, he like you said, he didn't want to give the specifics, but they make some assumptions, some guesses about like kind of like things that, you know, Dignitas can and can't play, right? And he was kind of saying that that's true of like all the teams except the very top teams. Yeah, like are, you know, good at some things, but they can't do everything, right? So it's like to have the best draft, it is often smarter to leave certain things open because you're just saying, hey, they actually can't play it, even if that champion is stronger than this other champion, right? And so, you know, he felt that they kind of like made the right guesses or made the right, I don't know, analysis or whatever you want to call it in those cases. And I did feel like they got some pretty advantageous drafts. I know there was a lot of criticism about the Game 2 Dignitas draft, where it's like you pick Alistar with Silas open is like, that's like
it was an immediate silence response, and then they picked the Gnar.
The Gnar one was like, I don't know if this is some like crazy code, but like, we messed that up, guys. All right, well, he can't take all the ults. We just give him 2, you know, like just pick him.
He can't take both ults
we're
at
going
the same
Amumu
time.
And Malphite and Gnar, and we're gonna, you know, it's like he can't take them all, which is true, but it basically guaranteed he had a Giga ult at all points in the game, right? Like when you have Alistar and it's such a short cooldown, like Alistar ult is one of the best in the game, you know, in any realistic scenario that Silas can get. Gnar is absolutely insane. And even Trundle ult is also really good because it's like he has 2 ults that really help with his survivability. If you know, and then the Gnar ult is like insane damage and playmaking, right? And so he kind of had the dream setup here on Silas and was kind of like gifted that by by him. I don't know if you want to call it like, I don't know if it was an oversight or just like poor drafting or they didn't think he would play it. I'm not sure. You'd have to talk to Dignitas and be like, did you guys forget about this? Because sometimes that literally is just the answer is like, oh yeah, we just forgot about Silas. And sometimes the answer is, no, we thought he wouldn't play it, right? And maybe guessed wrong. But that was definitely like one where Zinni got to really kind of pop off and punish them. And it's cool to see him have a good Silas game. And then he followed it up with a good Azir game. So he wasn't just on the same kind of like endless cycle of Galio, Annie and Anivia that it feels like he has been on, right? And so it was really nice to see him having a good series, and I think Bvoy looked quite good too, especially in game 3. The like Kalista game was pretty big pop-off game. I feel like Kalista, the more I'm seeing it, like maybe it is just like when it's picked in specific scenarios, but the more I'm seeing Kalista, the more I just feel like this champion just seems like it does a lot of damage.
Yeah.
It actually is
She's
looking
back.
pretty strong. She does feel like she's back.
It actually has been interesting just tracking overall bot lane picks across, which kind of coincides like on the new patch, which just coincided with a little bit of a rise of Kalista, which we were already starting to see on the last patch. But yeah, mages are kind of dead now, which
I knew it was going to happen.
I think is more of a. This is like a little bit of a tangent from Shopify because this wasn't more. This is a lot less of a Bvoy thing than other bot laners in our league, right? But I think part of it is just that. Kind of like in LPL and LCK already on the old patch where they're just kind of deciding like, hey, we're better at traditional ADCs anyway. And
I feel like the shift was already happening.
And then they like overforced it.
Yeah, which I think was maybe less of a pro thing and more of a solo queue thing anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit sad about it. But no, definitely interesting series and puts Shopify in a fantastic spot for playoffs. And as you said, they are going to be heading down to Mexico as one of the top teams with record, right? Because they're 3-1 right now, I believe.
Yeah.
So they are 3-1. They're going to be going down. Lion will be there. They're 3-1. TL will be there. They're 4-0. And then C9 are 3-1. Right, so it's like all our top teams,
by record,
which is definitely going to be exciting. C9 played against Fly, and I'm starting to get kind of disappointed with Fly. I feel like they're having a pretty big regression this split. It doesn't feel like they can actually get things together, which is, I feel like they had been clearly progressing from split 1 to split 2. They seemed like they were getting better and better. They seemed like they were working more well together. And then this split kicked off, and it's like, okay, they got 2-0'd by Lion without Inspired. Well, that's kind of a little bit of a surprise. And then they played TL. All right, well, you got 2-0'd by them as well. Okay, well, you're clearly not as good as those teams, but like, are you as good as the rest of the teams? Yeah. And then they play C9. They also get 2-0'd by C9. And now it's like this team that felt so confident that they're going to Worlds and probably still does. I feel like we are really starting to see that they do feel like a tier below the top teams. They don't really feel like they're in the mix so much anymore.
Yeah, I feel like they've kind of, and this happens to, I think, a lot of teams, especially since I think they started, and this was such a good thing, and this is why at the beginning, the last time I was on this show, I think subbing for you because you're sick. I was talking about how
Forgot about
Fly.
That. You poisoned me. You're taking us out one by one.
I have a whole assortment.
Next week it's just Emily and 2 Tibbers.
No, God, no. But I think they're. I was like, Kobe was so excited. He put them higher in his power rankings than any of us did.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, if you saw Lion at MSI and you were really excited about what this team can do and like some of the more creative picks they're bringing out, and you want to watch more LCS, FlyQuest is a team you should be looking at because they're so interesting, because they are so creative. And the only thing in the back of my mind that I was thinking, and we kind of brought it up, I think Meteos brought it up first, was talking about while we had confidence in Masu being able to play some of these creative picks, Cryogen still really hadn't shown that he could get down the specific timers he needed to be in a super, super roam heavy meta where he is one of their primary engagers as well.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a concern going into this split specifically with how the meta had transitioned from MSI to the first few weeks of LCS. And I did think we saw that in action. However, all that being said, I think it's more of a like TL, we already talked about, are performing at a much better level. Lion held on to their kind of top spot-ish, like despite the loss that we're going to talk about next, I'm sure. And then C9, they're working out the kinks with their new starting five. I'm not even going to bother calling it a 7-man roster anymore. As I joked on cast,
we start calling it a 4-man roster, a coaching roster.
We haven't seen two of the men. Outside of coach cams. So this was kind of another big test for FlyQuest coming in, being like, okay, if you want to make it to Worlds, most likely C9 is the team that you're going to be contending with, at least now, as we're looking at the way the standings are shaking out and the way the teams are performing. Returning to the dog tier list, which players are obsessed with the dog tier list, and I really appreciate that.
It's high quality journalism right there that we've created here on the dive.
But there really is. There really are like, got too excited about the dog tier list. It's like TL and Lion, right? They're like kind of not guaranteed, but they are the two teams that you're looking at and you're like, okay, these are automatically...
They're going to Worlds.
Yeah. And so then you have this pretty important test against C9 and you lose 0-2. And I think like the big thing to me is that the thing that FlyQuest haven't been able to build on, in my opinion, has been... Like, we kind of always knew them as this scrappy team. They're willing to take so many fights. Even when they might not seem to have an advantageous position, they somehow come out ahead because they have really good players. They have a very strong draft philosophy in a lot of cases. And they play around their bot lane specifically really, really well, right? Like, Masu and Cryo were destroying people earlier this year. And that was a huge point of pressure for them. Especially when Griffin was on like more farm heavy like options, as we've kind of already pointed out some of his like pocket picks of the Nasus, the Shyvana, stuff like that. And that has kind of stagnated a bit as other bot lanes have started to perform better during the heavy roaming support meta. I don't think it's a coincidence that this is our youngest jungle support duo, and they've sometimes looked a bit behind the play as opposed to some of the other jungle supports they've had to go up against. This week it was Vulcan and Blaber, and I thought specifically in game 2, because I know a lot of people were really hesitant about the lock draft, but I thought from level 1, you know, with that immediate like flash taunt out of Vulcan onto Masu, establishing this kind of bot lane prio, being like, look, we know you want to play around these pushing bot lanes. We know exactly what you want to do. We have enough CC to allow Locke to go crazy. And he was like, it was C9 had such a really good early game plan to be able to set the map in their favor and really kind of stop what they want to do with the Varus Bard. So, even though, like, I know a lot of people were looking at that draft and being like, I don't know about this, I did think that C9 entered that game with a very clear game plan, and they were able to execute on it really well. That attacked, when FlyQuest has been at their best, it has been through, like, when this FlyQuest roster has been at their best. For as much as we've talked about, you know, Griffin, jungle picks and like quads consistency, it has been through these really strong 2v2 from Masu and Cryogen. And so I did think from really early on in that game, C9 had a very clear idea of what they wanted to do with that draft, and they were very successful.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So someone that I feel like I got to throw some criticism too. It's kind of funny because it's on the weekend where you guys did the top lane tier list.
Oh yeah,
and
I was on that, but yeah.
Okay, well Raz did, I guess. Raz had Gakkos, I think, as the lowest tier, and then FlyQuest posted a video of Gakkos watching this, and he's like, "What? Like I'm the worst." But it's like, come on, brother. Like, yes, the stats and stuff are skewed because you've played all the best teams. You've played the 3 best teams in the league, right? So that is definitely going into that. And so maybe things will be looking a bit different by the end of the season, right? Because they still have, a number more games to play. They're going to be playing mostly weaker opponents from here on out. And so maybe they're going to start really kind of like performing better. But like from the games that have happened on stage, Gakkos has been struggling. This guy has been like not involved in almost anything. And it's like, I was looking at this because I was feeling like, okay, yeah, I think he's the worst. Like, he's been getting slammed in lanes. Like, I feel like he's the worst laning top laner in the league right now. I had felt like his mechanics were so good, and that like his laning was always something that was a strength, and that it was more about like learning the other aspects of the game, which is usually what happens for talented rookies. So his average goal difference at 10, I don't know if you know these stats.
I don't.
Okay.
But it's not going to be good.
So it's second worst in the entire league. If for top lane, it is worst in the entire league. So he's averaging down over 500 gold at 10 minutes in a game. Second worst is negative 50 for top lane. So he is negative 506 gold at 10 average. Second worst being impact, negative 50. And the thing that makes this more crazy is it's like people are like, well, yeah, but what about the picks? He is second highest counter pick rate in the league in top lane as well. So that means 63% of the time, the only person that's getting counterpick more often, and counterpick is defined in this way, not specifically the champion you are like picking, like if it's a counter, it's just you're picking after your opponent.
After, yeah.
So he is seeing what his opponent is playing. He's getting to choose based on that. And he's also like, even when you just look at the stuff he is playing, like it's not like he's just getting put on Orin duty every game. Like he's actually playing stuff that is supposed to be good in these matchups, right? Like he had the Jax into Olaf game where he got solo killed. He had he's played Olaf and Bessa, 2 Gnar games, Aatrox, Rumble, Jax, and Zven, right? And it's like all kind of most of the time in pretty good spots. So I've been kind of shocked by how much he's struggling. Yeah, he's just really, I feel like in a lot of these games kind of getting dumped on in lane and then just struggling to find much of an impact in the game. Yeah. Was it last week, his series where he like had 1 KP, I think, in the entire series? I
think it was.
Like I think he had 1 assist and 0 kills across the whole series last week.
In the TL series.
Yeah. And this one was rough as well. So I'm a little bit worried for FlyQuest. It's like, yeah, they're clearly way worse than these top teams, it feels like. But they're way worse. So like, are you better than Shopify and Sentinels and stuff? I don't know. Like where are they? Right? The only games that they have won is they beat DSG, but they're 2-6. They didn't take a single game off of those top 3 teams. So I'm definitely concerned for FlyQuest. I feel like they have been such an exciting story throughout this year because it is like all these young players, lots of NA talent. It's really cool to see them going, and they're really fun personalities, and obviously people love Griffin. He's really funny, but I'm like, damn, like FlyQuest, you're struggling.
Yeah,
we can no longer just write it off.
Yeah, no, and
they might be Chihuahua tier. I think they might be Chihuahua tier.
Don't drop them down to Chihuahua tier.
I think until proven otherwise.
Yeah. You are the keeper of the dog.
They're the newest inductee into the Chihuahua tier. I think we have.
I feel like we have too many Chihuahuas.
We've got 3 Chihuahuas right now, Emily. They're down with taking DSG.
Yeah, I mean the stuff about Gakkos. Like, I'm glad you brought it up because just last split in playoffs, we had that Quinn game, right? Where I was looking at that draft and I was like, guys, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And then they played it super well, right? Like, they found so many angles. He did well in lane. He was able to contribute in team fights, which is my biggest issue whenever Quinn is drafted in pro play. I'm like, how are you going to get her in? They got her in. They set up a bunch of really good angles for him. He took it. So to see how he is kind of struggling along with all of the other stuff that we've kind of pointed out, like they they no longer can, like, teams are targeting the 2v2, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I think bot in general is a party now, like, and has been all split, but you know, now it's even more apparent with teams kind of being like, okay, we know exactly what you want to do. We're going to attack that. And yeah, it does make me sad to see how they've regressed, because like you already said, like they are a fun team. Like they're a fun group of guys. I love rooting for them. Like I want them to improve. I think it's like overall just better for the health of the league if they continue to improve. So I hope whatever kind of block they're having now, because they've definitely like stagnated, I hope they can work through it. And maybe just cutting their teeth on a few teams that are like theoretically worse than them could help. Although to your point, like, do they beat those teams now? Like, we don't know.
Yeah, like, are you better at Sentinels? Sentinels just beat Lion, right? You know, it's like, I don't know. Well, it'll be interesting to see. The last series of the week was Lion versus Sentinel. Lion came in 6-0 in games, hadn't dropped a game, let alone a series, and Sentinels actually took them out. And there is going to be a lot of talk about this, and we obviously even kind of like touched on it from Isle's POV of like, Lion just played bad. But I do think that is an oversimplification, and also just like ignores the fact that Sentinels look way better than they have. I feel like Sentinels actually were playing a lot better league than we have seen from them so far this split. And so I do think it's you know, it would be unfair to not be giving Sentinels their flowers for this. They're the first team to take a game off of Lion so far this split, and they actually got the job done, beat them in a series, and I was really impressed overall with how they played. I mean, it's like, yeah, you can say, oh, well, Inspire's not there, or this or that or the other thing, but like Lion has such strong lanes that it just didn't matter against the other teams. They just show up and just kind of beat you, and I feel like everyone thought that is exactly what was going to happen in this series as well.
Yeah, I mean, even the game that they lost, it was like they just got outscaled by Lion draft. So it was basically like, if
and they
you
were
make,
up like 8K.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you make a few mistakes, you know, the Lion draft just kind of takes over the game. But like they set up really well for Hambach to just pop off on Kha'Zix. He had one career game previously, had won it. You could see how comfortable he was on the pick, even if I like personally didn't like that draft all that much. And talking to him afterwards, like I did ask, like, you know, how did you keep your mental after having like such a great game? And he was like, oh, well, I had a good game, so it's fine. I entered game 3 and I felt great. And I think specifically in game 3, you saw like there was that one realm warp that Saint had at around like 37-48. And I know we're going to pull these plays up back to back, but basically Hambach is too late on turning the lights out, right? Like, so they end up losing that fight.
Blue.
Yeah, and it looks like it's like, oh god, you know, this is going to be bad.
Game 2 again.
And then at 39-54, guess what? The lights go off immediately as soon as they see the realm warp. So I always think it's really cool when you can see a team kind of learn stuff like that in real time.
They're
and
evolving.
Be like, we you know, we messed it up the first time, but we're gonna get it right the second time. And once again, I do think that having players like Impact, like Huhi, who've kind of just seen it all, probably are a pretty good stabilizing presence on that team, especially for someone who is as volatile of a player as Hambach is, and who kind of always wants to go in. I also want to give just a small shout out to Darkwings. I think he doesn't get as much credit because Sentinels are kind of this infuriating team where you'll have, over the course of a series, players have really bad individual performances and then turn around and have really good individual performances the next game. But he's been like pretty consistently solid for them. And I feel like he doesn't get a lot of credit for what he's doing, but for a player who, like, I think a lot of people expected, oh, he's just going to go in, he's going to get crushed by the better LCS mid laners. He's been, you know, like wasting away in tier 2 for too long. He should have come into the league like forever ago when he was younger. He's been like consistently solid for
He's
them.
got second best CSD at 10 in mid lane. In the
Yeah,
league.
that's sick.
I think he's like, I fully agree. I've talked about this a little bit myself. I feel like he is quietly really performing well, right?
Yeah.
I think partially he's also going to get less talk just by the nature of his champion pool, right? Like he doesn't play the kind of like sexy champions,
No.
right? He's not popping off on
He's a mage.
Yone and
He's a mage
stuff. Like,
player.
he is going to play like Victor and Wei and and Nivea and Galio and those are strong champions. And I feel like his Wei game was really good.
It was.
I thought he played excellent in that game. But even in some of the games that they have lost, he has been kind of like the lone gold lead or lone, person who's kind of like even.
Yeah.
And so I think he is quietly playing very, very consistent. And he's been a really pleasant surprise for me for someone to come up from tier 2. And my expectations weren't super high. I feel like he's solidly like middle of the pack for mid laners. I think he lacks some of like the super high highs of like a Saint or a Quid or someone. But I do think he is playing very consistently and he is getting them across the finish line in a lot of these games. So no, I've been quite impressed by him. And just kind of like how they played as a team, I thought was really, really nice throughout this series. I know who he has talked a number of times about just feeling like they are struggling to convert what they are seeing in scrims because players still get nervous on stage. And I think he specifically kind of like mentioned Rahel and Hambach getting a little bit nervous sometimes when they're playing on stage. And he felt like this was more akin to how they normally practice. And that's something that's just like really hard to tackle. Sometimes I've been in a lot of different scenes. There are some players who really have those stage nerves and they get past it. And there's some players who struggle with stage nerves their entire career or never move past it, right? Some players that are like constantly known as the best practice partners, whether it was like StarCraft 2 or various games, and the literal best players in the world are thinking of this person you've barely ever even heard of as the best practice partner in the world because they think that they play at that like insane level. But then as soon as it's their turn to play in a tournament, they're going out in like 80th place or whatever, right? Because they just struggle with those nerves. So it's always something that is really, really hard to combat. But getting reps definitely can help. But I think sometimes it doesn't help as much as people think because reps only help if they go well on stage. When people struggle with nerves and then they go on stage and something bad happens, then sometimes that just gets in their head and then they're kind of like, stuck in it. So it's not always an easy thing to solve. And I think things like this can really help build that confidence for some of these players. And it'll be interesting to see where Sentinels goes from here.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak to that personally because like for people that don't know, like I get nervous for every broadcast. Like I don't eat during broadcast days, like when I'm on broadcast because of that. So like it's something that I really, I guess, resonate with. And it sometimes can be really difficult. Like even Huhi himself, I think, has said like his first stage games sometimes, like returning to stage. I think it was before he was on Sentinels. I think this is when he was on NRG, where he was like, yeah, like, some, like they didn't play in the arena for a while. Yeah. And then they came back and he was like, we were all nervous. And this is someone who's been to like international finals, right? Like, and so I think sometimes you don't realize how nerve-wracking that can be, but then it's a matter of, like you said, like you either get over it and you figure out ways to mitigate it or deal with it, or sometimes even turn it into being able to focus that nervous energy into performance, or you don't.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. Like I competed for a long time. I was always super nervous before games, but like for me, it was like music that would kind of calm me down. I'd always listen to music as long as I could until they forced me to sit down and get ready to play.
That's what I did during track.
And that kind of just like helped me kind of vibe and stuff. And then usually once I was in game, I was chilling, but like, until it started, I was sweating.
The lead up is the worst.
The lead up is definitely the worst. The anticipation for me was what was killer. But yeah, no, it's always interesting. And yeah, no, it's a big win for Sentinels, and it's a win that also helps their playoff chances tremendously because they only had one win, series win coming into this, and they did not have super easy teams down the stretch because they were still going to be playing against Cloud9 and Fly, right? And so it's like if you only have one win, 3 is going to make you safely in playoffs, right? I think there's scenarios where you can get there with 2, but 3 is going to safely get you to playoffs. So this puts them in a much better spot where they only need one more series win to pretty much be a sure thing for playoffs. And that does lead us to week 5 look ahead, which is going to be a lot of the same teams because we have this bye week for the teams that are going to Mexico in week 6. We have a doubleheader for all of the teams that are staying here. And so this is a super important week for teams, especially for Sentinels and FlyQuest, let's be honest, because Dig and DSG people are kind of...
This game is a banger.
Assuming Dig and DSG are kind of out of there. But getting towards top 4 is so important for playoffs. So both these teams aren't going to make top 4. It's just not going to happen, I think, at this point. I don't know if that's mathematically true, but I would assume it is. And so really only one or the other, I think, even has a shot of doing it. And so this is incredibly important. Sentinels are kicking off the week against FlyQuest. And this feels like for FlyQuest, it's not a must win, but it's starting to feel like a must win just for confidence sake.
Yeah, I mean, the loss combined with the Sentinels win was actually really bad for FlyQuest, right? Because now you're looking at this team that theoretically you should be able to beat, right?
Yep.
But they have a better record than you. It's suddenly way more important that you beat them in this matchup. And it's kind of like, it feels like FlyQuest have stagnated, and then it feels like Sentinels, so if like FlyQuest is here, Sentinels can either be like here or like significantly below them because their variance is so high. Which I'm pretty sure, because I gave Raz first pick of match of the week, which I think he picked DSG Dig.
You're killing the mystique.
It's
more funny when Raz...
I'm just boxing Raz out.
It's way more funny. I knew that you started letting Raz go first, but I wanted to keep it up because I just think it's hilarious, the idea that Raz just has to scrape through the drinks for the match of the week.
Raz is choosing these matches. I think that's funnier.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But it is an important matchup for DSG and Dig for reasons that we'll talk about. But Sentinels FlyQuest is kind of my like must watch for this weekend because it seems so important to both teams, but more specifically to your point to FlyQuest. Like they really need that win because I do think
they're 2-6.
At least one win will help like just tremendously in terms of vibes and attitude and like righting the ship. And I think like, I don't know if this is them, but in my experience, if you do have a younger team and you do have a team that is a little bit more volatile in terms of like the way they play in game, right? Like taking a lot of fights, being really scrappy. I think a win can be so huge for momentum going forward. Especially since like they do have an easier strength of schedule on the back half, but if they don't right the ship, I can see it continuing to spiral as well.
I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but it's probably not that hot because they're not doing that great. But like, I feel like if FlyQuest loses Sentinels, they're not going to Worlds. Period.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's going to be really hard to climb out of that deficit.
Yeah.
Like both just actually based on standings, but then also just mentally.
Yeah, I mean, even if you make it to playoffs at that point, I just don't, it's like you're scraping through in the lower bracket, and I just don't see it. And I think especially with a young team, confidence is so important. And having the vibes you get, if they can get a dominant win over Sentinels, then the last couple they have to play Dignitas and Shopify, right? And it's like, hey, if you beat Sentinels and then you string off a couple wins and then you win 3 series in a row and you go into playoffs, we're still going to be uncertain about how they're going to do against those top teams, but at least they will have built some confidence. At least they have some momentum. And if you do win those 3 in a row and you beat Shopify, there's pretty high likelihood that you could be top 4, right? And start in the upper bracket and so on. So I think it's a hugely important match for both these two teams. I mean, if Sentinels win, they're locked in playoffs. They're feeling really good. And FlyQuest is going to be in big trouble. Yeah. What's the other? We'll choose one other matchup. What's the other one you think you're most interested for? Is it both the FlyQuest ones?
It's both of the FlyQuest ones.
That's how I
then
feel too.
because I'm also really really interested and invested in Dignitas now. Like it's been cool to see Dardoch come back. I do think for as much as we've joked about game 1 Dignitas and Palafox Summer becoming game 1 Palafox or whatever Kangas has transformed his graphic into.
Yeah. But now they're fighting other Chihuahuas. So now we get to see who the king of the Chihuahuas is.
This is the week of the Chihuahuas, actually. It's Chihuahua week.
We got
here
Dig
on the
versus
LCS.
DSG and Dig versus Fly, the newly inducted Chihuahua.
So I mean, especially depending on what happens against Sentinels, right? Like that Dig Fly series is just absolutely massive for Fly specifically.
Imagine if Sentinels beat Fly. And then you're going into that. You're like, oh my God, what if we don't make playoffs?
Yeah, and that's a quicker turnaround than you expect, right? Because
it's just next day.
That's more of a like international type turnaround where you're playing back-to-back days.
Yeah. So prep is a lot harder for sure.
Yeah.
And you would think if you're prepping more for one series than the other, it's probably Sentinels, right?
Yeah.
So those are the two I'm most excited for. We do have Sentinels versus Fly, and then Dig versus DSG on Saturday, and then Sunday is going to be DSG Sen as well as Dig versus Fly. So super important for these teams that are battling to try to make playoffs. Dig and DSG have to have a good weekend if they want to have really any chance of making it into playoffs. That Dig versus DSG matchup going to be very important for their playoff chances. This was a fun episode though, Emily.
Yeah,
thank you for
having me,
for coming in and joining and poisoning my co-host. And
I hope Kobe feels better. I hope Medios has fun. I hope Medios has fun at work.
Yeah. It should be good. Next week we will be back, of course, for more of the dive. It'll be an Emily solo dive next week. That'll wrap it up for us here on the dive, driven by Kia. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube so you don't miss an episode. And leave a comment about how you want to pre-order Emily's definitive League of Legends History Edition. And LCS is going to return this Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific. It's going to be Sentinels versus FlyQuest. It's going to be a banger. We'll see you there. Bye.